Okay, welcome to webinar number 28. You are now live. Anything you say can and will be held against you
if we can catch you.
if we can catch you. Yes. All right, got the chat window open so I can see if anybody actually wants to yell at us on YouTube. Okay, all right, so we have begun. How are you doing, Rick?
I am doing fine. I am getting over my sinus infection, I hope. Still
Good
kind of.
health to you. We got our cold snap going on again.
Do you? How cold is it there?
Yeah. So it's just, or maybe it's just me. It's just cold here. Anyways,
We're at 28 degrees with light snow.
28 degrees.
Yeah, it's not bad out.
Well, we don't have snow. And our temperature, which you will receive in Celsius, centigrade. What is the official term? We're 10 degrees out here, Celsius.
Nobody knows what that is.
Our Californians do everything differently. Anyways, any news? Any news from the home front?
No. I am newsless.
Your news.
Yes, I have no secrets that I can divulge.
Okay. This may be a fairly short, at least it will be an hour at its shortest. We have a question. It's 84 in Tampa. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, well, I'll be in Tampa in 2 weeks.
Oh, good. Get a visit.
Yeah,
You
we're
got a visitor, Gary.
going to Bushnell.
Oh.
Bushnell Station. So anyone in the Tampa, Orlando area, feel free to stop by Bushnell Station in 2 weeks on Saturday only. That would be Saturday the 22nd.
Okay. Gary,
Thanks for the warning, Gary. He already plans to see me there.
Anyways, so you can deserve. Great. Over here in Denmark,
It's 20,000.
just dark and wintry and cold. Well, yeah, that's because you live in Denmark.
Whose fault is that?
Yeah. Okay, so shoot, we're trying not to ramble, but apparently that's all we're doing right now.
Yeah. We basically have nothing to say.
Yeah, there are topics for the newsletter this month. Just kind of, I guess you did a soft drive motor replacement.
Yes, I did.
And I talked about the initial stages of transferring data from a CS2 to CS3.
Yes.
With that in mind, that's what your future is in store for you viewers. If you do have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat box or ask a question. We would be happy to answer those during our time here. We do have a couple of, I think if we might answer an email or two if we feel like it warrants it. So.
Yeah, we have 28 attendees.
Oh.
30 if you count you and me.
We have a viewer called Bay Area Modules. I'm assuming
that's the ETE, one of the ETE guys.
That's the ETE SIG group, yeah. And hello to the Netherlands. That's a YouTube viewer. Good to see you online. All right. So should we? That's Terry. Hello, Terry. That ETE guy.
Oh, Terry. Hey, Terry. We know Terry.
Yeah. All right. So should we get?
Yeah. Let me get into it so I don't have to listen to you tap on your keyboard.
Okay,
Hint.
I will mute out while
uh,
I respond to people.
If we're only that easy normally to mute you. Let me see where it is. Okay, so here we have the newsletter, soft drive motor replacement, and I mentioned in this article that it is not for every soft drive motor, and it's not for C-sign. This is for certain soft drive motors where there's only one worm gear on one end. I haven't figured out any replacement for any others. And in fact, I do need to say that I didn't even figure this one out. This one I had talked to Scott Hausman from um, Helmets Hobbies, and he had told me about this replacement. And so I tried it. This is a few years back, and it worked. So I had done a couple of those since then, and I have done. I had this one come into the offices here that needed a repair, and this soft drive motor on this locomotive was completely frozen, which I assume subsequently it blew out the decoder also. So not only did this need a new motor, which are not available from Marklin, it needed a new decoder also. Let me enlarge this a little bit, make it a little bit bigger for people that might need to see it. So here in the first picture, it just shows the locomotive as it came to me. The decoder isn't loose like that. I had actually started to take the decoder out and remembered I should take a picture. So the decoder comes mounted to the frame with some double stick foam tape. But you can see the original decoder in there, which I tested on my tester and it didn't work at all. So I had basically no choice except to tear out the motor and the decoder. Now, what I had kind of thought about doing was changing, if you see here in figure 3, changing this entire bogie to a 5-pole motor, where that is entirely possible. It's a little bit difficult to get one part, which is what I call the girdle that holds the motor into the frame from underneath the, kind of like a saddle, underneath the motor frame. It holds it into the locomotive frame. But it is possible if you're patient to get that. The problem I had was I would have needed to change this coupler that's on it right here. And I didn't have the screw for that coupler and finding the right size and length and all that stuff. It seemed to me that it was just easier to change out the motor here in figure two, and do the conversion like I had been told by Scott Hausman. And so that's what I did is I proceeded to take out this motor and the uh, uh, the gear drive. And you can see in Fig 3, back to Fig 3, this is the new transmission, if you say there's a set of gears in there. And it screws right down onto the old motor bogie. It's really easy conversion to do. Once you take the first motor um, cradle off, because that is not used, the new one will slide right in perfectly. It works well. So here you see the motor with part number 196528. Comes with the new set of gears, worm drive, same worm drive that's actually in the old on the old motor. And this is like a strap to hold it down. It snaps in place. The problem is this is a motor for a different locomotive, so you end up not using this strap because what I'm doing is I'm using the not the worm gear, but the gears inside this housing. I'm not using the gears, but I'm using this housing to attach the motor. So the only screws I had to find were these 4 millimeter long screws. and they're I believe M2s, but they're 4 millimeters long. You cannot use any longer screws because what it'll do is it will hit the armature inside the can motor and eventually break one of those wires, and your motor won't run because once you break one of those wires around the winding, the motor won't run at all. So if you look closely, you can see right here, I have the screws mounted, or the screws going into mount the motor. And those are the perfect length, the 4 millimeter. They're uh, the right threads, M2s. And after I did this article, I found out the part number of E266671. So that'll probably give you a pack of 10 of these screws, but you can't buy them by the singles, unfortunately. Once I got the motor in, I noticed that the flywheel was rubbing up against the frame of the chassis of the locomotive. I actually expected this because every other um, conversion I've done like this, whether it's steam or a diesel, um, this flywheel is always in the way. It sticks out much longer than the original flywheel, which the original flywheel was on the front. It was around in here. But that means that the back of the motor, the whole motor overall with that flywheel is too long for just about any application that I've found so far, trying to replace one of these soft drive motors. So um, I was thinking I could, take it home and put it on my lathe and turn it down and get it the right size because I only need to take about half of it off. But I started thinking that, hobbyists like ourselves are probably not going to have access to a lathe or anything like that. So I'll just do what I've done in the past is you just cut it off. And you take your cutoff wheel and put it right next to the flywheel and just grind through the shaft of the motor. Um, and you can just cut it right off. You can probably try pulling it off, but I'm not entirely sure what attaches these flywheels to these motor shafts. And it seems to me there is some kind of adhesive that gets put on when this flywheel gets pushed onto the motor shaft. So I don't have a puller small enough to get in there. I I was afraid of hurting the shaft or the internals of the motor. So the easiest thing for me to do was to just cut it off. And it cuts off fairly cleanly. As long as the motor spins freely once it's cut off, you're fine. And that allowed me here in figure 6 to have plenty of room for the motor to pivot and pitch and everything it's going to do while it's attached to the bogie, and it won't hit the frame. So once that's done, it's just like a regular install of a decoder. Um, the uh, the motor settings that are in the decoder, probably almost every one will work. I think there's one or two that don't work, but you pretty much can't miss. Um, I chose a motor type as 5 DC soft, and even though there's no flywheel, I didn't have to have it set the parameters itself, the auto calibration. Um, every time I've done this conversion, the decoder has made the motor perform perfectly, basically right out of the box. The lo- the I have not needed to calibrate anything, so it seems to work fine. So just because myself, I try and make things look as neat and professional as I can. You can see up in the picture up at the top here of figure 10, I did tie the wires, but then I noticed that it has the eyes for the wire retainers. And I searched out the part number for the wire retainers. You get 4 of them, and it really allowed me to make this um, install look very neat once I get the wire retainers in there and everything. It kept all the wires out of the way, obviously. There's plenty of room for the aftermarket speaker that comes with the sound decoder. The customer did want a sound decoder in it, and which gave them the advantage of not only having an MFX locomotive, which was previously it was MFX, but this had more sounds. I think somewhere in here, yeah, here it says it had 7 sounds originally, but now it has 15 functions, where it had 7 originally, not just 7 sounds, but it had 7 functions. So that's lights and sounds and acceleration, braking, delay, and all that good stuff. Because this was, all in all, except for the motor, a straight conversion, I left the incandescent lights in there. The incandescent lights work exactly like they did before. In fact, it's the same bars and light bulbs that were in there. All I did was wire them up to this decoder, and it works exactly like it did when it was new. So, we are a little short on time, so that's my little presentation on my article in the newsletter.
Yeah, throw that last picture up there.
All right. Uh,
Or I could do mine. I actually have it here. So
okay.
actually, I'll run that. Let me do that one here.
And Rick Coons asked what purpose does a flywheel serve normally? It just smooths out the motor when it's running to slow down and fast up. It's just mass. Um,
It's the inertia that just keeps the
yeah.
motor running through flat and uneven spots because it helps turn.
Well, not only that, I think it helps with the back EMF also.
Yeah, so I got a couple of comments on your thing with your wiring. You should just go to Germany and work there at the factory.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Which wiring you looking for?
just this one here. This picture down here. This is
That one
like
there?
figure 11. And the other thing that I wanted to point out was because I actually did a conversion of a 200 that had a C-sign motor, and they had different tooling for the motor mounts.
Yes.
And the thing that people might not be aware of, the whole chassis here, the framing itself, basically hasn't changed. So what I ended up doing in my case was I just ordered the 5-pole motor bogie that they had for the V200s back then, and I just
Yeah.
put a 5-pole motor in it. I just took out the C-sign motor because C-sign motors sort of had problems. Some of them did, and it's like when they go out, there's not much you can do with them. Um, but nice
Basically, there
job.
are no parts available for those motors. There are no spare motors available. So,
I
with
do
this
find it,
conversion, in theory, these motors will be available for a long time. And if it
yeah,
goes out again, it's even just a regular enthusiast can change it.
yeah. It's interesting that you cut off the flywheel though. I find that.
I've had to do that every time I've put one of these motors in, whether I've done it in steam locomotives and this diesel.
Have you noticed any kind of running characteristics that are different after you cut it off?
None. It runs just as smooth as it can. It with it.
Hmm, cool. Yeah. All right. Good. That's nice going. Nice going. All right. So let's kind of talk over my portion of the article, and hopefully I can be as concise as you are. And then we can open up the field for show and tell or what's in the box, as well as taking any questions. So essentially here, and essentially what we're doing is for those of you who had a CS2 and were always kind of conservative about moving into a CS3, it's not too bad nowadays. It used to be sort of a big mess when you imported stuff from a CS2. And you can see in the photos here your basic process. Hopefully you've done saves where you've actually saved your progress on the CS2 into files, so that way you have something to revert to in case you had any programming errors. You can see in photo 1, basically you need to select the internal memory or USB wherever you stored your profiles from, and you can click basically clicking restore or save will go to either the internal or the USB stick. So essentially what I would do is I wanted to back up first. So I'm going to create a save internally, give it a file name. You can see I have a listing here of different iterations of what was saved. And then when you click on the restore function, or when you click on the save option and you're saving to a USB stick, you will basically get this display when you actually need to restore from a USB stick. So rather than it being just CS3 that's listed at the top, CS3 backup or CS2 folder backup, we actually need to refer to the USB stick so that we can actually pull the information from the USB stick, and it will automatically create a folder when you do a save. In this case, it's from a CS2 and the file name. That's what we're using. Restoring it, and to restore on a CS3, I can basically show you that on another screen. So let's get rid of this one. And we'll go to the actual CS3 screen itself. Okay, so on the right hand side, essentially what it is, I've already loaded this up by the way, but I'll show you the process. We click to System on the upper left, and we basically can go to the CS3 screen, and we're going to restore the function. And it's basically going to ask if you want to replace the data that you're operating on currently. And, we can, just to show you the screen, you can see I have a CS3 backup listing here, and this is basically all the internal drive of the CS3. I'm going to quickly put in a USB plug, a thumb drive, and it might not show the listing right away. So what we're going to do is we're going to cancel that out and we'll click the restore again and see what happens. Oops, a couple minutes here. Sometimes if it doesn't read, it's quite possibly because either the system needs to be reset or I got to clean out. Let's try it again here. Yeah, there you go. So now you can see the USB. So I had to do this. I actually had to do this on the CS3 screen just because I wasn't too sure if the interactions between the computer take. And you can see if I click USB, I have two folders. Click on CS2, and now you can see my listing here. So what happens? We have we actually do need to go through some of the process of comparing stuff side by side. I did have screens showing that, so let's pull one of those up. Sorry, I got screens blocking screens here. So initially, let's at least show one of the screens on the CS2 from the CS2 share. And so this is essentially your CS2 layout. This is what it looks like on a CS2. So you have short names, you have route buttons, you got your contact sensors here. And if we look now at the CS3 screen, let's go back to what was imported on the CS screen. Let's go back to here. And I have done some changes already to it, so let's have a look at that. Close this out, we don't need to see that. Oops, did I just close out the wrong screen? Sorry.
Yeah, but I'll forgive you this time.
Thanks, I appreciate your compassion there. Where's my VNC viewer? Let me reopen that. Continue. And now I'm not sharing anything, right?
No, you're not.
Okay, here you go. Share screen. Okay, so now you can see the CS3 screen. And this is typically what kind of happens. Certain pages will not have any track plans. And let's just kind of quickly look at the redrawn. Some of it comes into it like it's a real spaghetti, and I did show that in the article. And I can look at this, and this is a revised plan that I wrote out. let me show the article picture here. It's been a long time since I've had to maneuver so many screens. So you can see there's a side-by-side comparison. You can see some of the spaghetti work that happens here. This is the layout here on the left, and this is what was imported. This wasn't too bad. And like the worst thing here is like you can tell the difference between like a staging yard. The orientation of the CS2, because it's in these block diagrams, sometimes you had to sort of display a left turn when in fact it was a right turnout. And so it's all kind of interpretive. Now, I didn't really have in my memory what the layout turnouts actually were. So what I had to do is look at the article list and assume those were the correct turnouts rather than using the track plan. So this is something you might run across. Now back to the CS3 screen. And you can see I've basically redrawn everything. They're no longer really laid out in like the smooth grid as you would in the CS2. Because, you know, there's more interpretation involved. Sometimes this is easier to actually see how your track layout plan is. I did refer to some pictures. Unfortunately, I couldn't really do that with the hidden staging yard because it was under layers of woodwork and I couldn't really see it. So I had to sort of make this adaptation here.
Yeah, that's basically what it is on his.
Yeah,
on
it's a
his layout.
parallel kind of thing. Now, one thing to be aware of, and you can't really see it in these diagrams, is that, and the way I draw these things out, let me show a quick edit of these things. Now these dots here, for those who don't really know, those are your snap 2 points. In other words, you can easily snap turnouts to that point. Now, what I found is that when you have, let's say if you're driving your screen with your fingers or something like that, it's easy to hit the wrong sort of hot point. And what that means is, like, if I click on this, you see this square around it, or like in this case, it's a circle. That's known in like computer world as a hot point. It's the touch point. And when you have touch points that overlap, let's say here, well, like this is, like if I use the grid system as it were, and this was actually down here to really make a tight point, what happens, you get these overlapping circles and sometimes you'll hit the wrong point. And you know, that just drives you bonkers. So when I do the layout sometimes, especially in a staging yard, I spread it out by 2 because it's easier to hit with one finger rather than if you don't have a mouse available. It's a little bit faster in that sense. So when you're remapping your plans, you want to do that. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out is that if I zoom in to the thing, it starts to display the labeling. The way that this works, and this is actually going to be covered in the newsletter for our next newsletter. The labeling is by default changed. And so you do need to kind of go through your library. It doesn't change so badly for basically your articles to some degree. It definitely changes for the S88s. And that will be covered in the articles. So I just wanted to show you guys what happens in the future, because when you zoom in, then you can actually see it. Obviously, you know, if operability, I don't need to know the labels of everything. I might have it back this far. And again, let's kind of go up here. Now, see, this is the depot station. If I go into edit mode, you can kind of see how tight there's a little bit of overlap on those zones, right? And that when you're touching these things with your finger, it's easy to hit the wrong thing. And having this separation out really kind of helps. Like even side by side, having this gap in here cleans that up. So you're less likely to hit the wrong item. Let's see, what else is there covered? But overall, I mean, the main point of the article, you do get these transitions. Everything gets sort of put in its somewhat close approximation place rather than the original version of the update where everything was piled on top of each other, and you had to sort of spread everything out. So this is a good improvement. I wouldn't shy away from it. The concern about the labeling being changed, it does not affect the activation of the turnouts. You just have to relabel them so that you know what they are, especially if you're using them in events. So these are the event stages. And let me pop one open here and see if I can find the right one. Rick did a lot of the programming on this one, so kudos to him. I worked on the shuttle because it was a little bit more challenging, but the staging yard. So like when you do events, it's good to kind of keep them simple, but then you kind of have to have a log so you know where they are, especially in the CS2. The thing about the CS2 was you were very, very, very limited on how many letters that you could put in this titling. So C60/61 full, that's probably close to the limit. It didn't have a second line. Whereas on the CS3, you know, even if we zoom in here, you can have these really long labels, which can be more descriptive. You can see what I did here over this contact point where it says 61 parentheses 38. And I'll explain this in the next article newsletter, but basically 38 is a relabeling for me. 38 was the contact number that was on the CS2, but because it's loaded in the CS3, it got relabeled and it's actually labeled as 61. It's actually labeled like this: S88 contact device S62. So basically,
Yeah.
61 represents 62. 38 represents what it was on the CS2 for reference. So you want to make sure you have that. Yes.
Okay, so that 6138, it's still contact number 38, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But the thing is with the S88s, because in the case of the CS2 and this user's layout, he used old S88s, and the indexing of which contact that is vastly different from the new. Well, let's say it's quite a bit different from the new S88s. And one difference that you can say is the old S88s work off a 5-volt system, and the new ones work off of a 12-volt system. And why do I say that? Well, because there's a device called an S88 link, which enables backward compatibility to the old S88s. And there's literally a switch on there that says 12 volts or 5 volts. So you know there's a voltage system difference. They both work fine. The L88 allows backward compatibility, and since this user has old S88s, we have to use an L88 to integrate with the CS3. And the numbering system is different. It's so different that it has to be explained in a newsletter. But
Right.
yeah,
It's not reassigning the port numbers, it's just reassigning an index number.
it's a one-to-one. It's not a one-to-one. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So yeah, we do have one quick question. Can we eliminate the long labels? Yes, you can.
Yes.
And that's easy to do. You just need to go into sort of like the edit article list here. I can show you quickly. And we're going to go to the, I think I forget which one of these. Let's test it. There you go. So all you need to do is you just go down here and you just relabel it. So like this one here, I'll just shorten this 52, right? You just cut that out and you got your name change. So, and one way to sort of test this to find out what it is, because this got to be something that I had to do. I can't remember if I did it on 2 different screens. Essentially what it does is, see, they come in all red or they come in all colors, and let's get out of this mode. So what I would do is, like, I would click on this and then I would go to my listing here, and let's actually view the S88 contacts. S88 contacts. So this is just basically for me sort of trying to be a detective and figure out what I changed. Did this view listing happen right? No, miscellaneous device. There you go. So I'm just looking at S88s, and what I'm going to do is I need to go through page and say, oh, these are yellow. So is this the one I changed? Yes. So now I know which one I know which one I've relabeled. And then I have, as a backup, I have the S88, or I have the CS2 data, so I know which number to retain. So there's a tip for you there. When you do this broadcast, just leave everything the way it is, and then just check which ones are changing colors, and that way you'll know which one you're activating. And that kind of helps if you basically have your layout plan and your library plan going.
And we should probably just say to everybody that the red contacts you see there are because the layout is at this user's house and Curtis is at his place. When the CS3 doesn't see the S88, it turns the contact red.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what I'm doing is I'm doing some prep work until I get it back to this profile back on his machine, and then I'll upload this. And it kind of makes it quick. The other thing that I want to make note of, so that's enough for this area here, is that the other change that we get when we load information is your locomotive icons will not really transport in a lot of cases. Whoops, there you go. So you can see this user has many locomotives and the icons are not there. And I don't know, let's quickly look at editing the locomotive. And we can, because they're not partner. Now this user, he's collected many old locomotives, so there's no doubt going to be some icons that are missing. If I go into edit mode, just for users who don't really know, we just really click on these 3 question marks, and you can either, obviously you have local icons here. They used to have a folder for this for LGB stuff? Are they all piled into one now?
Um,
For a while, they had a foldering issue
are
where you
are
could have
you
it
you go you have to scroll all the way to the top. You're not at the top.
at the top. Let's see.
It's going to take you a while, so don't bother.
Yeah, oh yeah, let's see if we can grab
You can't grab that.
that. All right. So yeah, but you can do a search for specific icons. They'll just have to be reassigned. Now I think programmatically, this is part of the issue, is that the difference between a CS2 and a CS3, and this is likewise for articles as well as contact tracks, the tagging feature, which basically identifies icons or turnouts and stuff like that, it's different in the CS3. So the software architecture is different enough that you're going to lose some of the sort of core data that you would assume is associated, and it just has to be sort of reassigned at one point.
Yeah, and once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, you have to do it once, but again, you are converting old data from an older machine to a new machine. So there are pitfalls, but it's really not as bad as it once was. So don't be shying away from that. And that basically covers that. There's definitely going to be more information that I'm going to write about regarding this transfer, and look forward to that in the new newsletter. So, yeah, here you go. I think we're complete with the articles. I have around 100 locomotives in my CS3. Is there any way to choose 10 of them and play to a VNC viewer? Yes. You should be able to do that without a hitch. Let's go back to my VNC viewer. What am I doing? Where's my share button? It's hidden.
Waiting on you.
Yeah. Wait a minute. So there's one thing that's always weird for me. I haven't quite decided. The way to sort of access 10 locomotives is obviously we'll open up the side panels here. And you can obviously assign locomotives by click and drag, as everybody knows. But what you do on this list is you basically take this, you go all the way up to the top, and now you have access to which locomotives you want.
Right, but you can't assign the locomotives to those slots, and that's kind of the problem.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can sort.
Yeah, but the sort isn't 100%. Like, I know the history thing doesn't always work.
Right, and that's about the best you can do, which hopefully that you're able to assign positions to that, kind of like a mobile station. And that would be really handy. What's it do for the locomotives up at the upper left, with the eye?
This one here,
Yeah,
show all electric it's just a sorting.
in motion, standing. Yeah, see,
This
there's really no way to
actually,
assign what you want into that list.
well, there's a good no, because now I'm thinking, so here's something that we maybe are going to learn together here. If you have 10 locomotives in motion and you click this
Right.
in motion slot, would it show those 10 locomotives?
Is
So
that just that? Is it just that it has throttle?
yeah, well, let's actually try this out. So let's, because like if you have a brake module, you never know. So let's actually take a random selection of locomotives and give them speed here. So let's go to different pages, right? And that's what these dots here on the bottom are. They're different pages for different locomotives, right? All right, and let's see what happens when we do that. Let's go to in motion. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
10 running locomotives. So we all
So
learned
if you take one of those throttles down to 0, does it disappear?
that's a good question. Let's find out. Oh, well, this is a weird, interesting thing. Now I'm not connected to a layout, so this thing
Right.
doesn't.
And
So
those are
these are all,
probably duplicate addresses because they're MMs.
yeah, that's a good question. There you go. That's see how we think these things through, folks. This is our brains actually working. Aren't you lucky?
Yeah, get to see it in action.
Yeah, so yeah, this is VNC Viewer that you're looking at. So yeah, it's a good catch. Yeah, these are probably all matched because they're all sharing the same address because they are not MFX. They're Marklin Motorola.
Yeah.
So this is the other beauty of having MFX is that will generate different addresses. But it's a good catch that we figured out in motion. Again, helps. So. Great.
All right.
Standing. That's interesting. So standing would just display all the locomotives that don't have speed.
I assume so.
Yeah. Miscellaneous. Yeah, I'm going to use miscellaneous because I don't want to choose locomotives to run. I'm going to let them choose for me.
Well, I was gonna say they're not locomotives, but some of them were. Wartenberg C.
Which one?
Yeah.
Goliath.
Goliath. Some of those are, some of them aren't.
Mm, Zeppelin. It's got two Zeppelins.
Yeah. Well, we don't need to figure that out right now.
Okay. Well, that was fun to poke at. But yeah, we all kind of learned something there. So. All right.
All right.
So that's good. There's a little concise thing. We did have a question earlier about software version. The current version, I believe, is 2.5.2 parentheses 6.
It is, let me see, I will, 2.5.26. Yes, you are correct.
And that was because, and you don't really get a heads up on, we don't get a heads up on when the updates occur. We
No.
just kind of monitor when we start our CS3 and we see that infamous red dot.
Okay.
Anything else that we have? I do. Let's see. I'm going to load up a different profile. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Well, you got to hurry.
No, I can go a little longer. I just need
Okay.
to let you know. Let me restore. Let me find something to restore here.
Waiting on you.
I just wanted to kind of go over for some new users who are, I know we have, let's see if he's still around. I do know we have users who are interested in some event programming. I'm just wondering if I can set up something easy to discuss. So, all right. Basically, I'm going to use my layout as a device. Okay. Yeah, again, if you have any questions or people want to ask anything, you can raise your hands. Should we do an unboxing?
Yeah, well, I got a couple of products here from the warehouse. And I don't know where I saw this. This is MHI. And it's a set of these silo cars. And these things, I've always been impressed by how much detail are on these things.
Yeah, I just got mine in too.
It's a set of 12. Did you order this?
Yeah, I did.
Really? Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I can afford this, but
They're silo cars. I've always
it's a nice
liked
set. Yeah, look at that.
I've always liked the silo cars,
Look at that.
and to get them in a set. And these are, these, unless you order them as set, they're obviously set for just store display where they can just get basically some dealers gonna part them out and sell them out individually. So here we open this up. You can actually see the what do you call that when they're cutting it? You used to be a printer, so you know where they have the embossing where you can
Yeah.
fold this thing up, have a
Yeah,
display.
yeah, they cut that out for the back display.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are essentially meant to be sold as.
Yeah, you know, they go up on a counter and then you just pick the ones you want. We
But
just had a
what's that?
question from somebody and I pushed the wrong button.
Rather,
They're asking if you can set up contact tracks in C-Track, and it's like, no, that would need read contacts. C-Track, I'm sorry, Minitrix track. Minitrix track is 2-rail, and you would need to use read contacts.
yeah, contact tracks and 2-rail are. It's
A different
it's a
beast.
bit of a boondoggle, isn't it? Because you can't really do anything to the tracks.
We have the Flying Scotsman in black in the warehouse.
Yeah, somebody sent me a picture of that end, and I thought it was just, the light coloring it, but it's
Yeah,
actually
it looks good in
fake
black.
color. Yeah.
Hopefully there's some other color. Hopefully they'll do that in a different green color. All right. So what'd you get? What else did you
What
get?
else? Well, so what else did I get in my most recent package? I did get, this, I think you would have shown it as well. But we also unboxed some product before the webinar. I think that was what, a week or two ago? But we got, I'll pull that out of the plastic bag.
That's like the 10 car hopper
This
set.
No, this is a 12 car.
12 car? Okay.
Car hopper set.
What's that number? Your
US
fingers
locomotive.
over it.
This is what's the number there?
45666.
Is it? Is it reading the right way? My camera says.
Yeah. Okay, well, we also have the 45665 set.
Oh, is there a difference?
Yeah, the road numbers are going to be different.
Oh, I didn't know there were two sets.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So what road name is that one?
This is
These are
BNSF.
UP. Those are what?
BNSF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to get a set of
So that's
those.
cool. Yeah, I like the fact that you get a different road name because I've got I might not have ordered the hopper on the UPS. I can't remember. I mean the UP. Now the other thing that we got beforehand, and we'll just kind of slowly. I got a collection of these. These are the Marklin.
Yep.
What are these tank cars?
Got the
Yeah.
tank containers.
Yep. These are
Got
always.
mine.
Yep. You got yours. I did get this made in Hungary.
Nope. Which one's that? Oh, yeah, that's either the museum or I
Yeah,
think that might be the museum car.
Yeah. Don't have my glasses. I probably.
Did you get the E70 in black?
Oh, the thing I like this is basically Stern Sonnenberg radio. It was
Okay.
yeah, so that I thought that was a really cool logo.
So Curtis, did you get the E70 in black?
I did. Thank you.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And this is one more Marklin car, and then we can show the one good coloring box. I do like to get these Marklin Lokes.
Yeah, I
And
didn't get that.
yeah, but I really also like this sort of that port cutout.
Yeah, that lights up too.
Yeah, so these are pretty awesome to look at. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Let me show you what I got
yep.
that you don't know about.
It's always something. Didn't that come out a while ago?
Yes, it did. I
Yeah,
couldn't afford it.
and now you got it.
So I finally got a set, got that on eBay.
Good for you.
So
Shh, shh, don't say
and
that.
and one more, because you have that set, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Look what else I got on eBay.
Ah, nice. Yeah, mine's sitting over there.
Yeah,
It's got
yeah.
I put the music box
Uh,
460 in
are you ready? Are you ready now? I'm keeping up with the Joneses.
there.
So what I need is a locomotive for this music box, and I believe two of them will work. They're both a Swiss 460,
Yeah.
and it's one of them has the rickrack from the conductor's cap, which is the correct locomotive, but also they have one that has the inside of a music box, which this is a music box.
Yeah,
So
that's
either one would work, and I don't have either. I'm looking for one. So if
the
anybody knows
conductor
of one,
cap one works because I've never
yes,
been able to find that conductor cap. I
yeah, the
like that.
conductor cap, because the conductor cap kind of matches this front grill down here. And I
Okay.
believe that's the one that was supposed to be with it. It's been so long. And if I'm wrong, you guys can feel free to correct me.
I can pull out my 460 to show the music box one.
I also picked up
Don't
this
forget these. Yeah.
little
Yeah,
Primex
that one.
postcard
Yeah.
because I
Oh,
liked
that's
it.
nice. I like the
And
sliding door.
also, I found this at Amherst also.
Did you really?
Yes.
I. Oh, that's a SoCal one.
Yeah. Yeah, this came out years ago, and I used to be president of the SoCal chapter when I was in Southern California. So I knew this was out there and I had to find one. So I finally
Good
found one.
find. Yeah. And then also that one other thing we didn't talk about. We didn't show this is the
Yeah, the Pennsylvania got mine in the display case already.
that's the you can see the end photo there.
Yeah, looks
Yeah,
good.
so these are great. I really like this. I'm really
You know
proud.
what? I didn't, excuse me. I didn't think that was going to be a very good locomotive.
Yeah.
Um, but it looks wonderful in that Tuscan red, as they call it, that
That
brown
livery.
color.
Yeah.
It, I really do like it. So far, it's yeah, probably my favorite color so far.
Yeah. Cool. Cool.
So,
I know we got a couple more coming down the line. Let me get that 460. You guys can see that really quick.
and
Blank
we
out.
got Rick Coons asking me what that music box is. I forget the number, 16010. It actually does play music. Rewind it. There we
So
go.
this is the locomotive that I put in it. That's the music
Yes,
slope.
that's the one I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like like I said, I've always liked the conductor cap, but I've never been able to find one.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one just sits in that box that I have. I have the same display case. So all right. So anything else? Okay, no questions yet. Again, feel free to type in some questions. Or
There are a couple in the question.
there is Q&A that I missed. Okay. Is it possible to change decoder to assign a slope with 21 pin decoder locomotive so I can add sounds?
Um, yes, I don't know how. I've heard of people doing it. I'm not sure exactly how to do it. There is a motor setting for a C sign in the decoder, the modern decoders. I'm not sure how well they work, how well it'll run it. I really don't know. That gets really deep into the settings if you um,
Isn't it a hardware issue though? Because the sinus looks use a ribbon motor connection.
Right, but it's still a 21 pin. If it's a 21 pin originally,
Yeah,
it,
so
it would
basically
snap
there's a
right
mounting
on.
board. If there's a mounting board that matches the ribbon cable, yeah, then you can
No, no,
swap.
no, there isn't. But if there's an original, if the original locomotive has a 21 pin in it, then
Right.
you
Well, that's
can,
what I'm saying. Yeah,
yeah,
you need to have that mounting board. There is no mounting board conversion if you're trying to convert to a side.
no, no. And but there is C soft drive and C sign or a C sign setting in the decoder, and it tells you in the manual how to set the decoder for it. But it's something you read in the manual doesn't always translate to what's going on in your layout, and that to fix it, I think you have to get deep into the settings of the locomotive with the back EMF and all kinds of parameters, and I've never really wanted to try it to learn it. So,
Yeah.
yes, it is possible, but I don't think it's easy.
Okay, let me field this next question because it gets into some of the, now I can't, it's basically referring to contact tracks in manual mode and controlling of signals and not, and I've sort of been in contact with this gentleman. I think the best way for me to approach this is kind of show you an example because I don't really want to get into specifics on event programming, especially when it comes to stopping and letting trains release. So let me show my screen and I'll kind of mock up something simple here, hopefully. So let me share the screen. Where'd my share button go? Sorry, that screen's in the way. There it goes. Share screen. Okay, so this is generally, I haven't shared it yet. Okay, so this is the sort of a somewhat situation of a layout. Now, what we're looking at is trains are coming in from the right-hand side. So this contact represents K10, represents an entry point into the yard. There's an exit contact track that I use. And then essentially these here basically are controlling the actions within this staging area. I also use this contact to reroute my turnouts. So we can have a look at that if we want. That might make some sense. So let's have a look at K10 here really quick. At K10. And this will be K10 pre-stage, I think is what we're looking at. So just kind of like, I use contacts evaluation, just a rough guide here. So this, what it's doing is it's looking at K15. It's looking to figure out what state this is. And how I use this is I use this actually for a length detector. If the train is long enough to hit this contact and still be on that, I know it's too long for my yard. So essentially I want that to be off and then it will proceed on this. And if it's too long, basically what it's doing is it sets all these turnouts to reroute the train, to the outside. It just goes around to the outside. It just bypasses the entire staging yard. Okay, so that's one example. The other example here, K710, and I'm just giving you some examples of stuff to look at. It may not fit your exact setup, so we just kind of have to go with this procedure because quickly, is this one here? I can quickly show folks the layout that we're dealing with in your case. And that's this one here. Okay, so the issue that I'm having with this is I really don't know where the contacts are laid out. Your direction of travel is pretty clear cut. You actually have bidirectional travel here in the middle. So your layout to some degree, so this is, we usually regard our signals on right-hand side. So you have one on the right-hand side, left-hand traffic. So this top line here is also bidirectional traffic. This one here is also bidirectional traffic, and this is one directional. So where your contact's placed could make a big difference here. If you have one here, then obviously you have to know which direction it's traveling, because your contacts will read either direction. Having it here is so there's always a problematic when we're trying to deal with directionality. There's a pitfall to that. There's a way around it. Again, it's going to be really involved in your layout. We have to sort this out. In most cases, when it gets too complex with bidirectional stuff, I do have to look at, is it better to just have a running profile where trains always go in one direction and then set up another profile that runs in the opposite direction? Sometimes that's easier, it's cleaner. If you're new to this, that's the way I would start. You want to get to learn how to do your events with one directional travel. Having bidirectional travel, it just complicates things in ways that you're never going to really learn until you run it more and get used to more to your event programming. So essentially you have a stopping and a starting action, and that one I think I can address using the other model. So let's kind of look at this. We'll go back to here, and I could probably use an easier plan. So let's see if I can navigate us to an easier section of the layout. So we'll go up to the parade level, and you can see basically here I have a depot station. I do not have a trigger up here right now, so my direction of travel is going from left to right. And what you're doing is we're trying to control trains and stop them and whatnot. So we're going to actually first look at K11.2 here. And let's go back to the event programmer, K11.2. I have to go back into the depot here, K11.2. And you can see the way I've labeled these things. I have a D or an A. And what we're doing there is I'm deciphering whether or not the contact is reading as an arrival trigger or a departure trigger. And in this case, it's when the train is leaving contact with this section of track. And then you look at what it's doing. In this case, I'm releasing a brake module. It's basically turning 218, which is this one, off. So it allows any waiting train, it knows that it's cleared this turnout, because again, this is a departure contact. It knows when this is cleared, and any train that's waiting to leave will set itself to go. Obviously, I'm clicking on it, nothing's happening because I've got the layout turned off. But essentially, it releases that. And this is how we just kind of have to plan around what's going on. We have to kind of thoroughly think some of this through. Just like down here in this lower section, K11. Let's see if I can access that. Hopefully you're keeping up with me. So K21A, that's this one here. When it goes to green, it does two things. It turns 218 off. That prevents any train from colliding on this one section of track, right? And then it sets depot 1 to going straight, which means that the train is basically set to go around and go through. So this is how we kind of control events. These are all automated track control functions. You can see how there's this little plus here. That means that when the train makes contact with K21, that's this one here, then it activates these certain functions.
That's an entry contact.
That's what we call an arrival or an entry contact. The reason why I kind of prefer arrival and departure is because entry and exit both start with E, and I can't abbreviate that unless I want to use 2 letters. So basically I'm over optimizing stuff. Whereas a D, if we look at that icon, you see the pluses afterwards. That's when it exits or departs from that contact track. If you manually control those things, it's a whole different thing. You basically commanding, you're the king of the castle, right? You're basically kicking it on here like this. Now, if you're going to do something like what you're saying, when the train clears, you want to release it, that's basically sort of like your event programming. Shorten your events, make sure they're doing exactly what that 1 or 2 steps is that you want it to do. If you put too many steps in there, then you're going to have troubleshooting issues. And let's see what else is there that we can cover. So let's kind of go back to the staging yard here so I can actually give you one more example here. So this is a depot staging yard. And let's display the staging yard so you can see that. And close this really quick here. Staging yard. Whoops. See, this is that hot zone that I was telling you about. I'm trying to click on this, but it's part of that hot zone for the locomotive listing. Now, all right, so we're back here. K1, K71 we're going to look at. So let me drop this down so you can see it. And let's look at the event for K71. K71 arrival. What happens when the train reaches this contact? Okay. So essentially what it's doing is it's asking whether or not this is cleared. Because if there's a train here, I don't really want to release a train because that train could be coming around from this outside line and blocking this turnout. So I don't want to release this train yet. But if it is clear, then what it does is it releases the next train on this line. And that's stage 2. It's releasing this brake module. This icon I use for brake modules. Is it stopping the train or is it letting the train go? So this is the release point. I want to make sure my conditions are clear before I release this train. Okay. And then basically it loops around. And the way this one works is every train that enters releases the next train. So I have occupation on track 1. The next train that comes in to fill that spot will fill this out. Oops. See, I got other events. I forget which way it goes. But essentially what it is, I'm figuring out which order it's releasing, and it will release the next train. So essentially 6-1, close that. 6-1 arrival. 6-1 releases the stage 3 brake, which is this one here. Okay. So this is something you want to make note of. Again, they're examples. Contact me later, Bob, and then we can, if you need to fine tune this stuff, we can talk about it or email each other. But hopefully you understand what's going on. Great. And then we have another question. Oh, no, that was looks like I've answered the other question I saw has been answered. So thanks, Rick. And that's it. That's for that explanation there. So. Anything else we got? So let's see. No questions, nothing coming in on the, we have some comments on YouTube. Got my pen loco a few days back as well. Marklin will be putting out more liveries for the that loco.
It's the Norfolk and Southern Fallen Flags series.
Yeah.
I think there were 9 or 11 or something like that. So hopefully they'll do them all.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, yeah, they do make use of their tooling. So,
yes.
And I think it's been a long request that we had like a modern diesel from Marklin. So I'm really kind of happy to see all the varieties that we're getting already. So that's fun. And
we were up to 34 participants at one point, which I think is a new record for us. That means we had 32 people watching us. Woo.
Yeah, we've got we've had some questions regarding. We've actually some people from on YouTube, so they're I see 4 different names there. Welcome, guys, from wherever we are: Germany, Canada. No, wait, you didn't say where it was from. I just say we have greetings from Germany, greetings from Netherlands. Welcome, guys. And a greeting for whoever is dealing with the snow in school. Yoda Moore, thanks for inviting me to the webinar. Rick, you invited him. I forget how smart you guys, we forget how smart we are. We also never let each other forget how dumb we are either.
Exactly.
Let's see. Yeah. Good day.
Wonderful.
Yep, we are the nerds. So anything else? So that was a pretty good coverage.
Yeah.
Anyway, any more questions, feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, this is sort of, I'm on a tight crunch for time today. So this would be, unless there's anything I can answer for you guys, we're close to ending the webinar.
Yeah, I
And
don't know
I'm glad you appreciate the newsletters that we put out. We do struggle to actually come up with topics nowadays. Luckily, Rick's been really good with doing the mechanical side of things. I mean, I don't have a mini lathe.
but it makes it easy to write write newsletters.
Yeah, I got a hammer and chisel, but you guys don't want to hear that. And yeah, as far as any of the nerdy stuff regarding the CS2, I'm usually the one that fields those questions when I can. But it's always good to help you guys out. It's always good to hear from you guys. And it's definitely fun to have you guys here joining us. So with that, I don't think there are any more
No, I
questions.
don't see any more questions. So
And you did mention you're going to, what is that, an on-site or a show?
oh, we're going to Bushnell Station in Florida. It's a dealer and it's a museum, a model railroad / railroad museum. Not really live full-size railroad, but the ride-on little ones,
Oh, cool.
7.5-inch gauge, I think.
You gonna put on your striped
No,
overalls?
I have always told people if you see me with striped overalls and the cap and a beard down to my belly, just shoot me.
I encourage you guys to find him an undersized hat and striped overalls, because I'm sure one of us is willing to shoot him.
There you go.
All right. Anyways, once again, thank you guys. I think we are going to call it short here today. We will have this, obviously it's posted because it's live on YouTube. Once again, we will see you guys later in
Yeah, in
March is the next one.
April.
April. Yeah. Is it?
Second Wednesday of April,
Second Wednesday of April.
which I don't know when that is.
All right.
That will be April, should be April 9th, unless something comes up. How's that?
Okay. All right. I think that's enough yammering. We will see you again.
Oh,
What?
one more thing.
So
The
one
new
more
catalog
thing.
is out.
Don't leave yet.
Yeah, see, I got the new catalog. I don't know if anyone else has it yet, but I got
Ooh, the new
mine.
catalog. And just like Steve Martin said, my name's in there. I'm gonna
Yeah,
be
so my
somebody.
name in print. Yeah, you want to see it? We have our
Yeah,
name in
let's see.
print in the back. So,
The old jerk movie. So
all right.
okay. All right, take care, guys. See you again. Thanks
Bye,
again.
everyone.